Let's have a look at the sterling work of Swedish doomsday wench Greta Thunberg, who has gone effortlessly from global warming hysteric to anti-Israel activist to this.
All across Europe, factories are shutting down and hundreds of thousands of workers are losing their jobs. But what happens if we don't accept that? What happens if we fight back? Our so-called leaders are never going to do the changes needed to safeguard our future. It is up to us, especially the workers of this world, to be the solution of a problem created by this system.
Joining me now is Centre of the American Experiment president and founder and writer at the popular Powerline blog, John Hinderaker. John, there you go. Greta, who's never had a real job, is now a champion of workers. I wonder why those factories in Europe are closing down. Could it be the self-inflicted energy crisis that many European leaders inflicted on their country at the behest of global warming hysterics, just like Greta?
Yeah, Rita, Greta Thunberg must be one of the least self-aware people in the world. Workers of the world unite, she says. But of course, the reason why factories have shut down all across Europe is because green energy laws that have been promoted by people like Greta Thunberg have driven up the cost of electricity and made it impossible for those factories to compete internationally. So Thunberg herself is one of the causes of the problem that she is decrying.
Oh, absolutely. The cost of energy, the deindustrialization of some countries in the West, it's all because of these green policies. And now they're champions of workers. Now let's go to the US, and there are some on the right calling for President Trump to sack his chief of staff after her ill-advised, some would say idiotic, decision to speak to Vanity Fair. She didn't just speak to them, she gave them long-term access, John. How do you see this issue?
Rita, this was unbelievably stupid. Susie Wiles sat for 11 interviews with Vanity Fair over the past year. There's no more vicious, anti-conservative, anti-Trump outlet than Vanity Fair. I don't get it. Did Susie Wiles just fall off a turnip truck? I mean, what did she think Vanity Fair was going to do with those hours of interview tape? Devoted an entire issue, 150 pages of verbatim transcript of Susie Wiles? No, of course not. Obviously, they were going to pluck out the sentences they could use to make Donald Trump look bad. Anybody could have foreseen that, and I find it just inexplicable that Susie Wiles would do something this foolish.
It is just so profoundly foolish. She's not a naive woman, so how she came to make this decision 11 times is beyond me. Let's have a look at a couple of the stories and the angles that Vanity Fair took. Susie Wiles seemed to compare teetotaler Donald Trump to an alcoholic. That one got plenty of headlines, John. She claimed that Vice President J.D. Vance has been a conspiracy theorist for a decade, and his conversion to the MAGA cause may have been political, sort of political, she said. And she also said that for Donald Trump, the narco boat strikes are all about removing Nicolas Maduro from power. Is any of that helpful to the Trump administration?
I don't see how it can be, Rita. I mean, this alcoholic personality thinking Trump, by the way, is supporting Susie Wiles, sticking up for her. And he said, yes, it's true. I do have kind of an alcoholic personality. Of course, to me, that makes no sense. An alcoholic personality is one that, you drink too much, and Trump hasn't had a drink in decades. So, what was she talking about? I have no idea. But obviously, these are sentences plucked out of hours of interviews with the intention of making Trump and his administration look bad, exactly as anybody should have expected.
Now, today, President Trump spoke about the naval blockade of sanctioned oil vessels leaving and heading to Venezuela.
Just a blockade. We're not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil from not that long ago, and we want it back. But they took it. They illegally took it.
John, tell me about the escalation of this conflict.
Well, we have an aircraft carrier strike force stationed in the Caribbean now off the Venezuelan coast. That there's a lot of ships. That's not just one ship. That's a whole bunch of ships, whole bunch of planes, whole bunch of personnel. You can't just leave them sitting there indefinitely. Sooner or later, they have to either do something or go home. And so President Trump is trying to ratchet up the pressure on Maduro to try to drive him out of office without armed conflict. The last thing he wants to do is invade Venezuela. That's not going to happen. But sanctions do not have much of a track record at forcing dictators out of office. It rarely, if ever, happens. And it's not clear to me that there's any pressure that our administration can bring to bear that's actually going to drive Maduro out.
Now, John, Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has hit out at the president again over his comments about Somalian migrants, particularly in Minnesota. She had this to say on CNN.
We are doctors, we are teachers, we are entrepreneurs, and we are elected representatives of our state. And so these vile comments and this sort of creepy obsession that that he has on me and Somali Americans really is dangerous, and it's beneath the office of the presidency.
John, the White House social media team shared that clip. They posted it along with a comment about 80% of Somali immigrant households receiving some form of welfare. Tell me about this ongoing war of words between Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, and the Trump administration.
Well, it's unbelievable, Rita. As you know, the Somalis in Minnesota, there are not many doctors, but there's a lot of fraudsters. They've stolen billions of dollars in taxpayer money. It's turned into an industry here. The Trump administration has finally caught on to it. They're talking about it. The Walz administration is trying to defend itself, and Ilhan Omar is trying to personalize it, make it about her and the president. Tim Walz says we don't have enough Somalis in Minnesota. He wants more, bring in more Somalis. And of course, they're loyal Democratic Party voters. That's why he wants more Somalis. So we'll see where this all goes. These Somalis, the ones that have been prosecuted for fraud, are overwhelmingly American citizens. And they have been really assiduous, the Democratic Party has been really assiduous about getting them naturalized as citizens, and they become a very powerful voting bloc here in Minnesota. And so it's not really a situation of illegal immigration. That's really not the problem when you talk about this community.
Is the unprecedented fraud we've seen in Minnesota putting any pressure on Governor Tim Walz?
Oh, sure it is. My organization polled this in September, and 56% of Minnesotans in our poll said Walz hadn't done enough about fraud. 61% in the suburbs, which are the battleground areas in our state, say that Tim Walz has not done enough about fraud. It is going to be a huge issue in the November election. Tim Walz is trying to get a third term, which is always hard to do. And the Republicans obviously are going to be pounding away on this issue of fraud.
Now, there's been a high-profile resignation today. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino is going to be stepping down. How do you think that's going to be viewed? He appears to be leaving on good terms.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, Rita, celebrity appointments often don't turn out too well. The deputy director of the FBI historically has been a guy who administers the agency behind the scenes, really more of a bureaucrat administrator. And of course, that's not Dan Bongino. He's a flamboyant podcaster. And so he's going to go back to his podcast. And I think, frankly, he's probably better suited to that role than to being the deputy director of the FBI.
It'll be fascinating to see how that will work with that podcast. I mean, he always had incredible sources given his background, but now that he's been the deputy director of the FBI, can you just imagine the news he'll be breaking? Now, President Donald Trump has expanded the US travel ban list. He's barred 5 additional countries, as well as people travelling on Palestinian Authority-issued documents. They won't be allowed into the US. the list of banned countries or countries that have got a full or at least some sort of partial ban stands at 39, John. That is an extensive list.
Well, it's a huge list. It's probably too big a list. Under our Constitution and our laws, the president has got a lot of authority over immigration. He can, by order, suspend all immigration if he wants to, or he can suspend any part of it that he may want to. He's chosen to do that now, but this is not going to be permanent. At some point, immigration from some of these countries or travel from some of these countries is going to resume. But what I hope Trump does is just stop this practice of importing millions of people from hostile third world countries, especially in the Middle East and Africa, into our nation. We don't need them. They're in many cases hostile to our country and to our culture. And I hope that he will simply cut off that stream of immigration.
Well, you look at that list of countries, and there are overwhelmingly African countries, countries in the Middle East. So they are on that list. Now, I do have some good news for you, John. Axios has reported earlier this week that Kamala Harris is running again. The former vice president has made it clear to potential 2028 rivals that she's working to keep another White House campaign viable. What are her chances, John?
Well, her chances are slim and none, Rita. She's not going to be the Democrats' nominee in 2028. I mean, she was an embarrassment in 2024. I think, Rita, that the reason why she's doing this is not because she's serious about trying to get elected president in 2028, but oftentimes politicians are in this situation where they have to at least tease the idea that they're going to be running for president so that they stay relevant. She wants to be a guest on The View. She wants to go on, she wants to get paid $100,000 to give a 30-minute speech and so forth. And so she's got to stay relevant. How do you stay relevant? By putting it out there that you're running for president.
Well, she's had already 2 trips to Australia. First one was speaking at some sort of a real estate conference on the Gold Coast. And I think she's going to be back again. So I don't know why we are being targeted by Kamala Harris. Someone's writing her checks in Australia. I don't know who. Before you go, we played last night some really terrible footage, ugly, hate-filled footage of an attack against a lovely lady working at Target, just going about her business, trying to do her job, when she's set upon by this foul-mouthed demon Karen who berates her for wearing a Charlie Kirk shirt. Now, there's been a development in this story, but let's just remind the audience about the encounter.
You're stupid?
No.
Why the you wear that? You're at work at Target. That's not a Target shirt. It's not a plain red shirt. You support a racist. No, the opinion is he's a racist and you support him.
That's your opinion, ma'am.
And you should not be allowed to wear that. This is going to be taken above your head. That's insane.
Yep, like a good Karen trying to get that poor woman sacked. That's just part of the tirade that woman was subjected to from the crazy Karen. She's the one who posted it. The Karen is the one who thought she looked good in that video. She posted it expecting to get applause. Instead, that woman, who's believed to work at the Enloe Health Medical Center in Northern California, is now being investigated by her workplace, who say they are deeply concerned about the tenor of the post, really. We ask for patience and calm as we conduct our own internal investigation of this matter. I don't know how much of an investigation they need, John. The video was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think we just investigated a moment ago, Rita. I think that's pretty much all you need to know. But, this woman displayed liberal privilege. Liberals think they can do this. They think they could just walk up to somebody in a store and start swearing at her, attacking her, calling Charlie Kirk a racist, suggesting she's going to go to this woman's manager and try to get her fired. Liberals think they can do this kind of thing because they live in a bubble. And the fact that the woman who attacked this poor Target employee went and posted the video, she was proud of it. Her friends undoubtedly think, oh, yeah, that was great. Way to go. And this is what I call liberal privilege. They actually think they can take these kinds of liberties.
They do. It's called the awful phenomenon. I think it's quite prevalent amongst women, sadly, affluent white female leftists. And this is how they behave. It is just vile, but some good news for that Target worker. Give, Send, Go, a Christian crowdfunding website, has identified her. Her name is Jeannie, and they've already raised over $120,000 for her. And they said, we're hoping to raise enough money so that she can afford a much-needed vacation, a time for her to relax, recharge, and just forget about the ugliness. Yes, and forget about the demonic Karens of this world. John Hinderaker, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you so much for your time tonight.